Okay, so I'm at the point now where I'm starting to just trial fit the inner sill and the strengthener. A week or so ago I had posted a question on the Triumph Experience website to see if anybody could suggest the best order of putting these in, and a number of people, including Chris Fisher, thanks by the way, Chris, for your comment, and also for your videos, because I went back and reviewed those as you had suggested. Anyway, so the order is going to be inner sill, strengthener, outer sill, as everybody had suggested on the forum. So I'm just putting them in place right now just to get an idea of what the fit looks like. It's not brilliant, just like the floor pan, but I think it's workable. So that's the front, and that's the back. That's got to slide back, I think, slightly. So anyway, a little bit more fussing, and then drill some holes for plug welds, and then get ready. Probably clean the surfaces off, put zinc primer on them, and then get that in place. Might even get that done today. What time is it? I don't know what time it is. I had a clock here, but the clock stopped working. Anyway, whatever time it is. Okay, well, it's about 5:30. I'm going to wrap it up for the day. So I've got the inner sill and the stiffener. The inner sill is in place. There's a few more plug welds in the back by the top of the transition, so on kind of on the opposite side of here, that have to be done. And those were left so that I could get the stiffener in here under that section. So I've done the top plug welds, so do the bottom ones tomorrow, get the grinder out, and then start fussing with the actual sill. Oh, well, maybe I'll do this section first. Yeah, I'll have to think about that overnight. Well, good morning and welcome. It's just before noon on the 11th of May. Back out here in the shed, and I'm working on sills and the lines and alignment, etc., etc. So, yesterday I got the plug welds done along the top here. Those haven't been ground down yet. And what I'm trying to get an idea of right now is the line for the bottom of this. So I think if you follow David Plass, who's also restoring a GT6 right now, you may have seen one of his latest videos in which he was talking about his floor pan, and he has the floor pan that's in his car right now, which was replaced many years ago, has this very long flange on the outer edge, and a rounded, and he's looking at his new replacement pan, which has a much shorter edge, and actually has the pressing here at the back. So I think what we're looking at is, for some reason, some kind of generational difference in the stampings for those floor pans, because his newer floor pans that he's got have the pressing in the back, they've got the shorter flange, whereas the one that he's got from his previous owner actually looks very much like the pan that I've been working with, if you followed my videos earlier. Anyway, long-winded approach to that. What that means is that I've got this great big flange, about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, that I have to decide how much I'm cutting off. So I've been taking fairly great pains to make sure I get the floor nicely lined up. When I put the inner sill in, I tacked it a few times along its length, and now I've got the stiffener piece, and I think the stiffener is actually a pretty good indicator of where this line is for the bottom of the outer sill. So I started extrapolating that forward with this piece of bar, which I know is nice and straight, and then as I got up here to the front, I went, oh, that doesn't line up here with this piece on the front for the bottom of the A-post, which made me question myself briefly. So I went and looked at the other side, which is not much help because it's so rotten. And then I went and looked at my Spitfire. Now it's a 1980 Spitfire, granted, but keeping in mind that much of the body is the same or very similar, and many of the pans and pieces are replaceable, it appears as if from some point around here, so around the transition between the door and the A-post, this now starts to sweep up slightly. So it comes up from about here to about here. It comes up about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to try and determine exactly where that transition point is, and then scribe a line later. For now, I'm just going to scribe a line here so that I know I'm leaving more than enough material, because it doesn't dip down, it does move upwards. So I'll leave enough material for later. I'm not cutting anything now, just marking it, just to make sure everything is lining up. Because after I get the plug welds done on the bottom here of the stiffener, I will be grinding this down and then moving towards lining up the sill. And I have the door ready to put in place to make sure everything is working out there. My apologies for the lawnmower in the background. I hope you can hear me. But it's spring and the grass is pushing up as if somebody's underneath it, pushing from below. Anyway, see you shortly. Okay, so there it is with the plug welds done and ground down. The only other thing is right here where the stiffener meets the A-post, the bottom of the A-post. There, I cut this patch a little bit short. There's supposed to be a little bit of a flange that overlaps from the A-post onto the stiffener, kind of like with the back of the stiffener underneath the B-post. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tack a short little piece. I've got that here, primed and drilled and ready to go. Just tack that here in the overlap. Since that's all interior, it's not going to interfere with anything. So, and then just stiffen that up. And then once I've done that, then I'll start fitting up the sill and see how far I get with that. Hey everybody, it's Tuesday the 15th of May, back in the shed, and I'm just doing a little bit of fussing to see what the fit is looking like on this outer sill panel that I have. Again, this is another one of those 30-year-old pieces that I've got. So I've got it is what it is. So what I'm finding is that it's not really fully curved the way you would expect it to be, so that it just kind of drops in place. There seems to be a lot of spring tension that you've got to put on it to get it the way you want it to be, to get the kind of right lines. Now I don't know if that's intentional or whether that's just quality of parts or what it is. A couple of things that I noticed. So this upper ledge here on the front of the sill, I needed to actually bring that in further this way, as if I'm clenching my fingers, to get the right kind of angle here. So this was kind of open in this direction. The other thing is that the same sort of thing along the door ledge here on the upper part of the sill. I've got it sprung under a fair bit of tension right now, but I also kind of squeezed it in a little bit along the length in order to be able to line up the top of the door, the bottom of the door frame edge with the top of the sill, and then along the line that I've marked, which you can't really see under the edge here, and it's still not completely in place. This has to go up a little bit further. So lots of yakking here, but anyway, I thought this might be helpful if anybody's trying to fit something like this. And I don't know if this is just because of this panel in particular, or whether it's repair panels in general are like this. Now, the other thing is I have the patch here for the bottom of the B post, or the outside of the front of the rear fender. But what I'm noticing on this, I can't really get it in place right now. See if I can kind of hold it. Where my hand is, the curve at the bottom edge here of the fender well is not strong enough. Okay, I don't know what that sound was. It sounded like somebody hitting the roof there. Maybe a squirrel. Anyway, so the bottom of that fender well isn't curved in quite enough. If I had a shrinker, I'd probably put a bit more curve on that, because it doesn't quite match the curve along here. So maybe that means I have to splurge on a shrinker. Problem is they're like $120 or something, and I haven't seen them on special lately, so I hate paying full pop on these things, but anyway, could be what it's going to be. Anyway, as I said, for the moment I'm just kind of fussing with the panel fit, seeing if I can tighten things up a little bit. I'll probably stop at the hardware store as well and get some of those self-tapping screws to hold some of these in place, and then try and decide what the best sequence of events is for getting this in place, because one of the other challenges here is this front sill finisher. Hold this up if I can. That actually has to go on the inside of this flange and then line up properly along here. So getting that to all work nicely is going to be a bit challenging. I think if I remember correctly, Chris Fisher did this after he had the sill in place and tightened the seam up with the self-tapping screws. So I may end up doing that as well. I'll go back and review his videos on that. Anyway, that's the update for now. I'll bring you back if anything interesting happens. Alright, still working on the fitting of these panels before I start doing anything drastic. Of course, I waited until the guy with the leaf blower had stopped, but I think one of the things I've noticed here is that I've been concerned about this panel. This is the front of the rear fender, and it looked like it wasn't quite wide enough across the top of the fender patch. But the more I looked at it, I realized that it's probably been designed so that it comes up right to the transition, because there's actually a very linear transition line along the side, and you can see it in the door panel when it's here, and then it continues right here along the edge of the fender. And when I looked closely at this, I noticed that I hadn't actually cut out this piece right to that transition line. But if I hold this up in place along here closer to the transition line, which I'm trying to do one-handed, I actually get a much better line on the fender well. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is just to trim that back a little bit. Worst case scenario, I can always bridge that with a patch if it's gone back a little bit too far, but I think that's actually going to help a lot. So probably bring you back when I've done that. Okay, about 5:30 now. So I think I'm probably going to pack it in for the day, but I'm happy to say that I've gotten this rear fender lower section, front rear fender. Yeah, whatever. This part here tacked into place, and the seam has been welded up here, and all my plug welds are done. Took a little bit of tensioning to get it into place according to the lines that I'm trying to achieve here, but yeah, it worked. So get the grinder out tomorrow, clean that up, and then start moving onto the actual sill. So kind of exciting, and looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon.